Hello and welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. Hope you know I like to get my podcast videos started always with a moment of silence, followed by the serenity prayer for the addict who still suffers. So if you would, please, a moment of silence. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Alrighty, well, how's it going, everybody? Well, today's Wednesday, man. One more day and it's Thanksgiving, and gosh, this time of year, it tends to be a pretty hard time for a bunch of people who are in recovery and for who are in the struggle in the world of addiction. And man, I know because I've been there. I've been there before. I've been there in both sides of the coin, if you would. And it's I know that when I was in full blown addiction, like this time last year, I was in addiction, and it was just it was Thanksgiving for me just wasn't really it wasn't fun. It was just in a sense it was pretty sad. You know what I mean? I didn't have nowhere to go. I didn't I didn't have there just wasn't no set plan like there had been in future times of holidays that I've had with when I had my family, and get-togethers and that sort of thing. And it seems like the older I've gotten, the less things happen. And being in addiction, it's even worse. And so you don't want to involve yourself in any of those celebrations. And but I'm grateful that I'm here today doing a podcast video and being sober and clean and being able to share the message of recovery and positivity in my life. And that hopefully what I say in these videos, that maybe it brings someone over to this realm that is in the world of addiction right now. And that is one of the main due diligence of the service work that I do in trying to share the message to the addict who still suffers. So what I want to do today is I'm just going to go through a few stories of a few parts of this the NA book that there's some things that kind of they kind of jumped out at me as I was kind of going through the book today. And it's just a few. I'm going to just go through a few of these, and then I'm going to skip through a few pages, and I just highlighted a few things that I wanted to share. And I'm going to share the things that stood out, and then we'll talk about it a little bit and see. I'll elaborate a little bit on what we read, and how it pertains to myself in my world of addiction and recovery. And then hopefully this resonates with somebody out in the audience, that it'll be able to help them get on that first rung of the ladder to get out of that negative world and into this positive world of recovery and sobriety. And also not only that, but to also help the person who's already in recovery to kind of give them a pep in their step, if you will. Because I know that there's times like this past couple of weeks, man, I just been really struggling with just the fact of maybe the things that you do get in a sense boring. And then I don't know about you, but I've been feeling here lately, I get these feelings of sadness and depression and anger and anxious and that sort of thing, but all wrapped up into one. And I feel like I'm getting pulled in 10 different directions in my mind, and I don't know how to deal with that, because usually whenever I would get those types of feelings before, my go-to was to use, and that's how I dealt with those feelings. And this time around, it's I'm trying to incorporate new things, and when I'm aware of how I'm feeling, I'll do things like pick out different parts of the NA book, or I'll read a different type of book, or watch somebody's encouraging podcast, or I'll do a little bit more exercise, or just call somebody in the world of that I know who's in recovery as well, and or maybe I'll just go to a meeting and just sit there and listen. Not necessarily share, but just sit there and listen to people's stories, and that sometimes is enough to say, hey man, you know what? It's a reminder of where you came from and the journey that you've to where you were to where you're at now, and man, I could remember my journey, and at the last year at this time, the day before Thanksgiving, I can remember being in a motel room and just using, and I I'm glad that I'm not in that realm, and I'm grateful to be where I'm at today, and by no means is my journey already finished, because the journey of recovery isn't something that you attain and that's it. It's not like you hit this plateau and once you get there you're good. No, that doesn't happen like that. The world of recovery is getting out of the world of addiction, but on a continuous basis you're having to keep doing things to stay in that recovery realm, and and for some people it could be just doing one thing, and for some people like myself is doing many different things. I mean, I incorporate going to peer support groups that I'm involved in. I go to meetings that I go to. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of podcast watching, and I do I spend a lot of time doing meditation, and so it's quite a few things that I do, but sometimes it gets overwhelming, and sometimes I start, the addictive mind starts working, and it just starts trying to talk you into doing something that's not right, and but the thing is, at this time around, I'm able to recognize those thoughts. I'm able to recognize those thoughts and putting something positive into action to keep myself in that world of recovery and positivity. So I really like the fact that I can do that, and it's not like before I would do something like that, and if I got that thought, or that something needs a trigger in a sense, then automatically I would just go to use, and I'm glad that I'm able to be aware of those things, and able to put positive things into action to keep me moving forward. But nonetheless, I'm gonna read a little bit of this book, and we'll go over and see if it resonates with somebody. Well, here, this on page 164, it says, at this writing, I have over 5 years clean, and our home group just celebrated its 5th birthday picnic. My home group has held over 3,600 meetings. Just today, through NA, many addicts are living the promise of freedom from active addiction in our area. For this, I will remain forever grateful. If you start a meeting, they will come. And I can find myself when I read that. I don't know how many meetings the places that I go to have, but for me, I can relate to that in the sense that my meetings that I've gone to since I've been sober is that celebrated thing. And just recently for me was getting my 6 months chip in one of the meetings, and getting that chip was just for me, my personal journey, it was such an accomplishment that I was excited about that. I was happy that I got that, because there's no way 7-8 months ago I would have saw myself sitting in a meeting getting one of those blue chips, and and I am grateful for that. So I can relate to that part of the book there, and so I'm going to read another part here. It's on page 168. It says, I saw what I had become. My teeth and eyes were yellow, my face was broken out, my hands were swollen with track marks all over them. There was blood on my jeans, and my neck was green from wearing a faked gold necklace. I was a mess. Then I looked again at my son. He was peeking at me, smiling, and I knew that if I kept using, he didn't have a chance. I knew I would never teach him how to drive or play baseball or tie a tie or get ready for prom or ride a bike. I didn't care about my own life, but I realized then that it wasn't fair to deny him a life. I looked at his mom and realized that she had been following me everywhere, and I was leading her right to hell. Then I did something that I think nearly everybody recovering addict can remember, probably right to the moment. I cried out, "God, help me." That was the first time I genuinely asked for my higher power to help to stop. I had wanted to stop for years, but didn't know how. That cry for help didn't have an immediate reaction that I could see. I finished off my drugs and convinced my sobbing girlfriend that we needed to get more money to use again. I know that God's delay is not God's denial. I was arrested that day and sent to jail. In jail, I was arranged for me to go into treatment. My brief stint in the military qualified me for a veterans program. It was there that I was introduced to Narcotics Anonymous. I'm so grateful for HI meetings because that's how I was introduced to the program that would save this addict's life. Man, that story right there is so, it kind of touches home for me because, you know, I was in the world of addiction and it was just that. I could remember looking over to my girlfriend and seeing her just shooting up her drug of choice, and I'm sitting there, you know, just mad at the world. And you know, that last time I could just remember the very last time that I was in the day before I got sent to jail, and we had this big old knockdown drag out fight because she was mad about $5 that, you know, she said she gave me, and she wanted some drugs that I was supposed to go get for her. And you know, when I came back with the $5 and just a little bit of drugs that a friend of mine had gave me, and I figured, you know, that would be good enough for her to carry her over for the next couple of hours till we got something else. And man, she was just so pissed off and just irate and just yelling and all these kinds of ugly, derogatory things to me. And I just, at that moment, I could just see her when she's doing this. I'm sitting on this rock at a park, and I'm like a lookout while she's got her pants all the way down to her ankles, and she's trying to shoot up. And at that moment, I realized, man, I'm here being a watch for someone to shooting up drugs right this minute, and it's daytime. And I'm thinking, what am I doing? Well, I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing here? And I can remember at that particular moment, I looked at her and I just told her, you know what? I'm done. I just can't do it some more. And I was just so upset and just so mad at myself, and that I had put myself there, that I was just tired of that life at that moment. I remember walking off and then just yelling to God and, you know, talking to myself and talking to God and saying, God, why? Please get me out of this. You know, what do I have to do? And, you know, lo and behold, the next morning I get a knock on my door, and a friend of mine wants some drugs, and I didn't have any more to sell him. And so I got up and told him, I said, if you give me a ride down to the motel, I'll get you something. So I did. And instead of me telling him, well, just take me back where you dropped me off, I told him, you know what, just take me to the motel next door. I'll get off there. And we pulled into that motel and we got pulled over. There was like 4 cop cars surrounding us. And I got arrested that day and got sent to jail. And I could remember sitting in that car, in that police car just wondering, me like, wow, I was like mad that I got busted and then relieved at the same time, but I started just beating myself up about it. Like, God, what am I going to tell my kids? How am I going to explain this one? How am I going to call them and tell them somebody bail me out? And, I was just embarrassed about it. And, but at the same time, I was lucky that I couldn't get a hold of anybody. How ironic is this, that I'm sitting in jail with a $7,800 bond, and I go in front of the judge. There's two people in front of me who had the same charge, and they both got 2 years of prison time that they got sent. And I thought for sure, I'm gonna go. And when I get up there, they asked me if I was a veteran. I said yes, and they talked amongst themselves, and then they came back and said, okay, well, they reduced my bond to $100 and sent me on my way. They sent me back up. They said I was able to bail out. I got $100 bond, and I went back to I went up back to where I was staying in the jailhouse, and the next week, it was funny because I couldn't find anybody. Nobody would answer the phone for me to get bailed out. All I needed was $10 for somebody to go pay, and I couldn't get a hold of anybody. And about a week or two pass, and I get called up to go have a meeting with someone, and it happened to be a counselor of some sort, a social worker, and offered me to go to a treatment center. And so I accepted. I said, well, if it gets me out of jail, I'll go. And I went, and I stayed in that treatment center for a little over about almost 70 days. And man, was it the best choice? But it's amazing how God works in mysterious ways, I guess. But I was asking for him to get me out, and I did, and I got out. It wasn't the way I wanted it to be, but nonetheless, I found a road to recovery, to positivity, and I've been sober and clean ever since that time. And so I could relate to that story that I just read. And I'm going to read one more thing here. There's just this one paragraph here that it's a couple of sentences. It says, we know we can't force the addict to recover. We can only carry the message to every addict still suffering the sickness of addiction. And man, is that so true? Because, 3 months before that time, if somebody came up to me and tried to talk to me to go to recovery treatment center or anything like that, I would have just probably shot the finger at him and told him to fuck off. You know what I mean? And that's the honest truth. Because I would have been like, who the F are you? I don't got a problem. And that's exactly what I probably would have said. You know what I mean? And it's, when it says here that we can only carry the message to every addict still suffering, and that right there to me is so, that is so true in a sense that, that's the only thing you can do, is you wish that you could save everybody that you come in contact with who's in addiction. But the bottom of the line, the bottom truth is that you can. But it costs nothing to plant a seed in somebody's head, in somebody's mind, in somebody's ear, just to share a story that you have gone through that got you into the world of recovery and positivity. And maybe you've had a few stints of sobriety or something like that, and every one of those stints of sobriety has a story behind it. And that story is something that you have as your arsenal of recovery, that you can share that message with somebody, that you can be able to help somebody. So, I've got a hell of a lot of stories, you know what I mean? And to find myself here today at this particular time, sober and clean, I am grateful for that. I'm solely grateful for that, and I'm excited to be able to share because for me, it's part of my therapy, it's part of my recovery that when I do stuff like that, when I'm sitting here doing a video and spreading a message in that way, it makes me feel good and it makes me want to stay clean and sober. You know what I mean? You know, even though some days are harder than others because every day is a struggle, but nonetheless, this is part of my arsenal of recovery at this time going around. And I just, always pray and meditate that, I'm able to stay here this time and not go back. And so, the more people that I can encourage and, to have that first step in this direction to the world of recovery and positivity, well, the better that, that I feel myself and that I can share the message more, that it'll help somebody. And, I've had too many people that I know not make it, and too many people that I know that are still there. And, I wish that I could save them all, but I can't. And, my due diligence is doing one of these podcast videos every day so that somebody somewhere every day needs to hear something. And if you click on my video, then I hope that my message resonates with you and my message helps you get into the web to that world of recovery and positivity. But yeah, so I guess that's just all I got for today. I would be grateful and thankful if you'd please subscribe to my channel, hit the thumbs up, give me a like, give me a comment. If there's anything that you'd like me to touch on, any type of subject or anything that you're going through in addiction, send me a comment, and maybe I'll do my due diligence and elaborate on that story and that subject and stuff. But I appreciate you guys watching and listening, and I hope that everybody has a great Thanksgiving, and I know that I will, and I'm grateful that I'm going to be able to spend Thanksgiving with my daughters and be clean and sober. I'm really excited about that. I guess until the next time on When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug.